Chapter 6. Garrett set to work diving into every data set the Australian Department of Agriculture had to offer in his quest to find the root causes behind crop yield failures. Some of the data was straightforward and available in department-sanctioned datasets, but other parts lay locked behind virtual walls, access limited to more senior personnel. No matter, he slipped around a few digital gates to gain entry, justifying his unauthorized access as a necessity for the greater good, saving crops and, more urgently, alleviating his crushing boredom. One database held over a century's worth of weather records, another decades of soil content analysis, and in yet another, readings on fungal presence and infestation levels. As he scrolled through, Garrett shook his head, muttering, "No wonder they can't solve their problem." Nothing here is normalized. Data was scattered across different platforms, inconsistently measured, and poorly integrated. One of the best things about being a genius, Garrett thought to himself, was seeing patterns and connections in data that others missed entirely. But one of the hardest things about being a genius was having to be the one to make these patterns obvious to everyone else, repeatedly having to prove what was so clear to him. He'd learned this lesson over and over, like in math class, when his teachers had failed him for not showing his work, even though his answers were right. Or on the debate team, when he'd stated the correct conclusion only to be marked down for not walking the panel through his reasoning. So he knew he'd have to do more than simply understand the data. He'd need to construct logical, visual connections that would lead the rest of them to see what he already saw, step by painful step. Initially, Garrett focused on weather patterns, suspecting that drought was the primary culprit behind the low crop yields. He'd seen the news about wildfires and the drying rivers firsthand, the lack of water apparent across the land. Pulling the historical weather data into a vector database, he normalized it, linking it to specific locations and dates, and cross-referencing it with crop field locations and planting schedules. He tried every angle he could think of, grouping by crop types, soil content, fertilizer data, and rainfall patterns. But analysis after analysis came up short. Beyond the typical fluctuations, there was no clear evidence that drought alone was driving down yields. Frustrated, Garrett shifted his focus to fungus counts, comparing them against crop outputs, expecting to see a significant link. Yet, even with the decades of fungal readings, the data didn't match up to the massive crop losses some fields had experienced. Fungus was not the smoking gun. It had to be something else. Pests, perhaps? Garrett pulled pesticide usage records and began plotting these against crop losses. Maybe it was the organic farms, losing yield because they were battling pests with natural solutions instead of chemicals. But here, too, he found nothing definitive. Pest patterns and pesticide usage didn't correlate with the drastic losses either. Digging deeper, Garrett scoured the network for any obscure or hidden datasets, something overlooked. One particularly slow Tuesday, his exhaustive search finally yielded something unexpected, a dataset titled Project Fly. A shiver ran down his spine. Flies, he thought, disgusted. But intrigue got the better of him. Garrett opened the README file. Project Fly. Review of 2025 Agricultural Drone Project. Classification. Internal use only. March 1st, 2025. Agricultural project utilizing drones, referred to as flies, to enhance crop yields through precision seed distribution. The drones were designed to fly over designated fields and distribute seeds into the soil at specific depths and intervals, optimizing planting patterns to improve crop productivity. Technical specifications. Drone capabilities. Each fly was equipped with high-resolution cameras for field surveillance and navigation. Seed distribution mechanism. A funnel and airgun assembly was integrated for targeted seed firing, allowing controlled dispersal at calculated depths and spacing. Operational control. Drones were remotely piloted by certified operators, ensuring adherence to specific field patterns and safety protocols. Outcome and evaluation. Despite initial promise, the project encountered several operational and financial challenges, leading to its discontinuation. Key issues included cost inefficiency. The high cost of drone units and certified pilot operators significantly impacted the yield-to-cost ratio, making the program financially unsustainable. Technical limitations. The seed distribution system frequently experienced mechanical failures, with the funnel and airgun mechanisms prone to jamming. This resulted in inconsistent seeding patterns and reduced effectiveness. Conclusion. The cost associated with drone operation and maintenance, coupled with mechanical reliability issues, indicated that the technology was not viable for large-scale agriculture deployment under current conditions. Recommendations are underway to assess potential redesigns or alternative solutions for cost-effective agricultural innovation in future initiatives. "We have drones?" Garrett exclaimed. Martin, who had been quite happily ignoring his intern for the past few weeks, turned around, startled. "Drones?" Martin asked, his eyes narrowing. Garrett held up his laptop, practically vibrating with excitement. "Look, it's all here," Garrett said, marching over to Martin's cubicle. "We've been flying drones over fields to collect data and even trying to use them for planting." Martin leaned back instinctively, unused to anyone invading his personal space. But when he caught a glimpse of the drone image on Garrett's screen, his curiosity got the best of him. He leaned forward, brow furrowed. "Huh, we have drones," Martin muttered, a glimmer of interest breaking through his usual indifference. When Garrett stumbled upon the report, his mind made two crucial connections. First, drones and agriculture were actively intersecting in their department. Second, that meant that somewhere there was a record of the fields observed from the sky. "The numbers alone aren't going to give me answers," Garrett explained, "but images might." Garrett began outlining his thought process. If they could get images across the growing season, they might be able to visually pinpoint the exact stage where the crops started failing. It was a fresh perspective on their problem, one that added a tangible dimension to all the data he'd been sifting through. One of the benefits of attending a top technical school was access to industry experts. Last semester, Garrett had attended a geospatial consortium presentation on satellite imagery and the extensive availability of data from global satellite systems. Nearly every inch of Earth was regularly photographed by orbiting satellites. As he explained this, Garrett connected the dots out loud. Drones were great, but if they didn't have all the coverage they needed, satellites would fill in the gaps. It was the first time Martin seemed to fully grasp Garrett's potential. And to Garrett's surprise, he almost looked impressed. "All right," Martin said, cracking a small, reluctant smile. "Satellite images are our next stop."